is, you could take a walk, you can run, you can put the float tanks. There are a bunch of different ways to do this. But the phone is starting to gobble up all that dopamine and all that space-time, duration path outcome stuff, and we are wasting our cognition, and we're wasting the most precious gift we were given by Mother Nature and evolution is a brain that can teach itself things and that can predict things and that can look at the past, can learn from elders and gain wisdom. I mean, all that stuff is what we were put here to do. And my dad said, I asked him if he thinks there are other galaxies, because he's more versed in physics and the cosmos than I am. And he said, I don't know, but if there was, they probably extinguished themselves with social media, because it's like mental chewing gum, people just kind of throwing away their cognition. And the dopamine thing, it's not that they're getting so much dopamine from using the phone. It doesn't feel like a big win. It's that they're spending it out, like spending, $5 bills all day long. Pretty soon you're broke and you're exhausted. And so I worry about our use of these devices and what it's doing to our neurology. But I also know they're extremely important.
Alan Levinovitz, who was on the podcast recently, had a book called Natural. And it's one of the things that he talked about in the book was that what we're doing is essentially he talked about this on Twitter, and that's how I engage with him. We're taking most of our information and we're making it processed information by getting things off of Twitter, by getting things off of social media. You're getting this very weird interaction with people. It's boiled down to this very strange 280-character version that's not equivalent to an actual conversation with a human being or reading a book or watching a documentary or any of those things. It's this weird thing that's most of the information that you're receiving. And if you look at human beings that are on processed food diets, you see the body behaves very poorly, and it just reacts very poorly, and it's terrible. It's just not good for it. It's unhealthy. Well, equally unhealthy is processed information, and this was his argument in his book.
That's a great argument.
It's a great argument.
Yeah.
I think we are in an adolescent stage of this technological intervention, and this will lead to whatever Neuralink is going to be and whatever the successor to Neuralink is going to be. I think things are going to get way weirder. But there's potential for a beneficial aspect to it. And I think one of the potentially beneficial aspects is that it seems like all of technology is moving us through, at least in this virtual sense of using phones and computers, where the boundaries between people and information are becoming smaller and smaller. The problem is the boundaries between physical people are becoming greater. There's more separation, particularly with COVID, right? There's more physical separation between people, but the boundaries between being able to access the thoughts of people is smaller.
Right.
So it's the beneficial aspects of, like what we talked about with your immune system and your health and just overall mental well-being, community, love, friendship, all those things. You need to be right there. You need to be right there with it. You need to hug each other, all that stuff. That's crucial.
Well,
that's everything.
And hardwired into us. Absolutely.
And with COVID, that's, first of all, everyone's scary because everyone could give you the bug and could kill you or kill your grandma. And then on top of that, you're engaging in this processed form of communication all day long, and most of it is toxic.
Right.
I mean, if you're engaging with people on social media, then I've talked about this multiple times on the show. There's people I follow that don't even know I'm following them because I just have them bookmarked because they're just so toxic. I go and I want to know what they're doing. I'll just go to them, I'm like, look at this motherfucker. He's on Twitter 12 hours a day.
Amazing. Yelling
at people, arguing constantly. And I just imagine that their mind is a fucking chaos, just a wreck, just potholes and burning buildings. Their head is just filled with shit.
But it's effective. In a terrible way, it's effective. Mm-hmm. It's like in the engineers, talk about signal versus noise. And the brain is essentially an engineered machine. It looks for where signal is high and above the noise. And so there really is a payoff nowadays, a short-term deleterious payoff, but payoff nonetheless, for being able to recruit people's attention, recruit their autonomic nervous system, get them into those modes of having to click and follow and scroll. Now, I agree that I think social media, like for instance, I teach some science on social media. I've managed to make great connections through social media, but we have to be very judicious in our use of it. And that's hard for most people. And what I think is going to happen is that we're going to talk about signal and noise. I think what's going to happen is we're going to start selecting for people that are very good at controlling their attention, are very good at separating themselves from technology as well as using technology. And so for people that are just rabidly consuming technology and information and thinking this is the way to live a good life or to get ahead, they're actually just falling into the noise. And the people that are, I think it's one of the reasons why a select set of individuals have been so effective at controlling the landscape, the political landscape, lots of landscapes, let's just say that. And I think that we need to think about whether or not we're in the noise or whether or not we're, paying attention to these big peaks of signal. And what's that? We're getting recruited. We're getting, kind of groomed by these things. And it is scary. And at the same time, I agree. I think that eventually we will break through this. I do, because that's what the human animal is really good at.
Yeah, I think we're in the technological dark ages. That's what I think.
I think we very well.
I think we're in just some weird thing where there's a lot of people going, this is not good, kids. This is not good. But most people are like, fuck you. And just wading into the fray.
Because it feels kind of good.
Yeah, well, especially when you don't have real meaning or purpose in your life because you're unemployed and you're stuck at home because of COVID and you're scared. Well, that's a way that people occupy their mind and engage, and you're seeing a big uptick.
Yeah,
big uptick in at least the people that I'm paying attention to, and the toxicity of their exchanges. It's just